Imagine sitting in your living room, completely alone, trying to relax after a long day. The house is quiet, the lights are low, and you finally feel a sense of peace. Suddenly, your phone buzzes on the coffee table. You pick it up, expecting a work email or a text from a friend. Instead, it's a message from a woman you dated for just 2 weeks. A woman you thought was long gone from your life. It reads, "I see you. You're sitting in your chair with your feet propped up, wearing a blue shirt." Your heart stops. You look down at your chest. You are wearing a blue shirt. You look at your legs. Your feet are propped up on the ottoman, exactly as the text described. You scan the room, your eyes darting to the windows, but the curtains are drawn. You rush to the door, but the street outside is empty. This isn't a scene from a psychological thriller. This was the terrifying, day-to-day reality for a man named Dave Krupa. For nearly 4 years, Dave lived in a state of constant, paralyzing paranoia, stalked and threatened by a woman who seemed to have godlike surveillance over his every move. But here is the part that will keep you up at night. The woman sending those messages, the woman who knew what Dave was wearing and who he was with, hadn't been seen by a single living soul in years. She was a ghost in the machine, a digital phantom who had vanished off the face of the earth, yet continued to wage a relentless war of terror. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are unraveling one of the most twisted, diabolical, and mind-bending true crime cases in American history. It is a story of fatal attraction taken to a deadly extreme, involving digital deception so sophisticated it baffled the FBI, and a plot twist so insane that even the most seasoned homicide detectives couldn't believe the truth when they finally found it. Before we dive into this dark and tangled web, if you're a fan of true crime stories that challenge everything you think you know about human nature, please hit that subscribe button right now. We have some truly incredible deep dives coming up that you won't want to miss, and your support helps us keep bringing these stories to light. Now, let's go back to where it all began. In the quiet suburbs of Omaha, Nebraska, our story starts in 2012. Dave Krupa was 36 years old, managing an auto repair shop and trying to navigate the unfamiliar waters of being single again. He had recently ended a long-term relationship with Amy Flora, the mother of his 2 children. Dave was a straightforward guy, hardworking, a bit of a gearhead, and ready to see what the dating world had to offer. Like many people at the time, he turned to the internet. The first person he really connected with was a woman named Shanna Elizabeth Golyar, who everyone called Liz. Liz was a single mother of 2, and on paper, she and Dave seemed like a good match. They started seeing each other casually, but Dave was very upfront from day one. He wasn't looking for a wife or a serious commitment. He wanted to keep his options open. Liz seemed totally fine with that, and for a few months, things were easy, fun, and uncomplicated. But everything changed about 6 months later when a new customer walked into Dave's shop. Her name was Kari Farber. She was 37 years old, a brilliant computer programmer, and by all accounts, a powerhouse of a woman. She was a devoted single mother to her teenage son, Max, and had a smile that friends said could light up an entire city block. When Kari and Dave's eyes met across the counter of the auto shop, there was an immediate, undeniable spark. It wasn't just a casual attraction. It was magnetic. Dave asked her out on the spot, and they went on their first date that very evening. The chemistry was off the charts. They ended up back at Dave's apartment, and in a strange twist of fate, Kari told Dave the exact same thing he had told Liz. She wasn't looking for anything serious. She was focused on her career and her son. Dave felt like he had hit the lottery, a beautiful, intelligent woman who wanted the same casual arrangement he did. However, the universe had a cruel sense of timing. As Kari was leaving Dave's apartment the next morning, she walked right past Liz Golyar in the hallway. Liz had shown up unannounced, claiming she needed to pick up some things she'd left behind. It was a brief, awkward encounter, no more than 10 seconds of silence and a passing glance. At the time, Dave didn't think much of it. He had no way of knowing that those 10 seconds would ignite a fuse that would eventually blow all of their lives apart. For the next few weeks, Dave and Kari continued to see each other. Kari lived about an hour away in Iowa, but she was working on a massive programming project for a company just around the corner from Dave's apartment. To save her the commute, Dave suggested she stay at his place for a few days. It seemed like a natural, practical step. On the morning of November 13, 2012, Dave got ready for work, kissed Kari goodbye, and told her he'd see her that evening for dinner. It was a perfectly normal morning, but by noon, Dave's phone buzzed with a text that felt like it came from a different person entirely. The message from Kari said she wanted to move in together permanently. Dave was blindsided. They had just agreed to keep things casual. He texted back, trying to be gentle but firm, saying he wasn't ready for that. Kari's response was instant, vitriolic, and full of rage. "Fine, I hate you. I'm dating someone else. I don't want to see you anymore. Go away." Dave was stunned. He tried to call her, but she didn't pick up. When he got home that night, the apartment was empty. Kari's clothes, her laptop, and her toiletries were all gone. Dave figured she had just snapped and decided to end things abruptly. He was hurt, but he also felt like he had dodged a major bullet. If she was this volatile after only 2 weeks, he was better off without her. But the nightmare was only just beginning. 2 days later, Dave's phone started blowing up again. The messages weren't just angry. They were obsessive. I hate you. You ruined my life. I will destroy your life and take your happiness. I'm never going away. The texts started coming by the dozens, then the hundreds, then the thousands. Every time Dave blocked a number, a new one would appear. Kari Farber has seemingly transformed from a brilliant professional into a relentless, digital monster. While Dave was dealing with this harassment, Kari's family was living through their own personal hell. Kari's mother, Nancy Rainey, was a woman who knew her daughter better than anyone. They spoke almost every day, so when Kari stopped answering her calls, Nancy knew something was wrong. Then, the texts started, but they weren't like Kari. The grammar was off, the tone was cold, and the messages were full of bizarre claims. One text said Kari had suddenly moved to Kansas for a new job and was never coming back. This was a massive red flag for Nancy. Kari loved her job in Omaha. She had a house. And most importantly, she would never, ever leave her son, Max, without a word. Max was her world. When Kari failed to show up for her half-brother's wedding, Nancy didn't wait any longer. She went to the police and reported her daughter missing, but the investigation stalled before it even began. Nancy mentioned that Kari had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder years earlier. The police, looking for the easiest explanation, decided that Kari had simply had a mental health crisis, stopped taking her meds, and walked away from her life. They told Nancy that adults have a right to disappear if they want to. They treated it as a voluntary disappearance, and the case file was essentially left to gather dust. But for Dave Krupa, the disappearance was anything but quiet. The harassment escalated from digital threats to physical stalking. Dave would be at work, and he'd get a text describing the customer he was talking to. He'd be at a bar, and he'd get an email telling him what drink he had just ordered. It was as if Kari was a ghost hovering over his shoulder at all times. And Dave wasn't the only target. Liz Golyar, the woman Dave was still seeing on and off, began reporting her own terrifying encounters. Liz claimed Kari was sending her death threats, telling her to stay away from Dave. One afternoon, Liz called Dave screaming. Someone had spray-painted horror from Dave in giant letters across her garage door. A few weeks later, the situation turned deadly. Liz's house was set on fire in the middle of the night. She and her children barely made it out alive, but her family pets, her dogs, her cat, her snake all perished in the flames. Liz told the police she saw a woman who looked like Kari Farber running away from the scene. Dave was living in a state of total siege. He was so terrified that he moved apartments, changed his phone number, and eventually bought a 9mm handgun just to feel safe enough to sleep. He stopped dating, he stopped going out, and he withdrew from the world. He felt like he was being hunted by a woman who refused to die and refused to go away. Years passed. Max grew up without his mother. Nancy grew old without her daughter. And every year on Kari's birthday, her Facebook account would post a status. Happy birthday to me. It was a cruel, digital taunt to everyone who loved her. By 2015, the case had been cold for nearly 3 years. That's when the detectives from the Pottawatomie County Sheriff's Office, Ryan Avis and Jim Doty, decided to take a look at the file. They were intrigued by the sheer volume of digital evidence. They decided to split the work. Avis would look for any sign that Kari was still alive, and Doty would look for evidence that she was dead. Avis started with the basics. He looked at Kari's social security number, her bank accounts, and her credit cards. What he found was chilling. In 3 years, there hadn't been a single transaction. No one can live for 3 years without spending a cent. No grocery runs, no gas station stops, no ATM withdrawals. To Avis, the conclusion was clear. Kari Farber was dead. Meanwhile, Detective Doty was looking at the people involved. He kept coming back to Liz Golyar. Why was Liz the primary target of all this rage? Kari and Liz had only seen each other for 10 seconds. It didn't make sense for a woman to spend 3 years of her life stalking someone she didn't even know. They brought in a digital forensics expert named Anthony Cava. Cava is the unsung hero of this story. He spent thousands of hours digging through the digital footprints of the stalker. He discovered that the thousands of emails and texts weren't coming from Kari's phone. They were being sent through spoofing apps that masked the sender's identity. But the sender had made a fatal mistake. Cava traced some of the IP addresses back to a router in Liz Golyar's house. The detectives couldn't believe it. Was it possible that Liz Golyar had been pretending to be Kari Farber all this time? Kava dug deeper. He found a photo of Kari's Ford Explorer on Liz's phone. The photo was taken weeks before the police had even found the car abandoned in a parking lot. Even more damning, Kava found an app on Liz's phone that allowed her to schedule text messages to be sent at a future time. This was the smoking gun. It explained how Liz could be sitting right next to Dave on the couch, her hands nowhere near her phone. While Dave's phone buzzed with a hateful text from Kari, Liz had been scheduling the attacks days in advance to give herself the perfect alibi. The detectives knew they had their killer, but they had no body and no physical evidence of a crime. They needed a confession. So, they decided to play a dangerous game. They brought Liz in and told her they believed her. They told her they were close to arresting Dave's ex-girlfriend, Amy Flora, for the stalking and for Kari's disappearance. They asked Liz to help them catch Amy. They suggested that Liz should email Amy and try to get her to confess. Liz, thinking she was finally going to frame her rival and get away with murder, jumped at the chance. Within hours, the detectives started receiving forwarded emails from Liz. They were confessions from Amy Flora, but the detectives knew it was just Liz typing to herself. They pushed Liz for more. They told her they needed to know where the body was to make the charges stick. Liz, pretending to be Amy, sent a final, graphic email. She described how she had stabbed Kari Farber to death in the passenger seat of Kari's own car, stuffed the body into a garbage bag, and burned it. She even provided the exact number of times she had stabbed her. The detectives rushed to the impound lot where Kari's car had been sitting for years. They pulled back the upholstery of the passenger seat, and there, hidden in the foam, was a massive, dark stain. DNA testing confirmed the impossible. It was Kari Farber's blood. On December 22, 2016, the digital mask finally fell. Liz Golyar was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. During the trial, a final piece of evidence emerged that horrified the courtroom. On an old SD card Liz had forgotten to destroy, investigators found a deleted photo. It was a picture of a human foot with a very specific tattoo, the Chinese symbol for mother. It was Kari Farber's foot. Liz hadn't just killed Kari. She had taken trophies of her victim's body. In 2017, Liz Golyar was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. The tragedy of this case is that Kari Farber was a victim twice over. First, she was murdered by a woman consumed by a jealous obsession. And second, her identity was stolen and used as a weapon to torture the people she loved for 4 long years. Liz Golyar spent more time pretending to be Kari than Kari got to spend being herself. Today, Kari's family finally has peace, and her son Max has the truth. This case stands as a haunting reminder that in the digital age, the person on the other side of the screen might not be who they say they are. Sometimes, the most dangerous person in your life is the one sitting right next to you, smiling, while they schedule your destruction. What do you think about the incredible work of the detectives who refused to let this case stay cold? And how does it change the way you look at the digital world around you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you found this story as chilling as I did, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We have many more deep dives into the shadows of true crime coming your way. Thank you for watching, and stay safe out there.